In the shadowy halls of history, where fact intertwines with fiction, there exists a gem that has captivated the imaginations of many: the enigmatic Hope Diamond. This jewel, steeped in centuries of lore and whispered secrets, carries with it tales so tragic and eerie, they could very well be the markings of a curse. Yet, as with many tales that have had a long journey through time, sorting fact from fiction continues to be a challenging endeavor. The Hope Diamond, with its mesmerizing deep blue hue, stands at the center of a narrative rich with misfortune, mystery, and the unexplained. But is it true that this diamond has a curse attached to it? Or is this a tale born from minds captivated by its beauty or captivated by greed, spinning narratives as complex as the diamond itself? The truth remains elusive, urging seekers to explore its hidden journey through history. This game of 3 centuries of telephone began in 1668, so it was more of a game of smoke signals. One of the earliest tales was that the diamond was stole from the eye of a Hindu statue, and this act of discretion led to a curse being placed on the stone. However, this story is largely considered a fabrication. I will circle back to when exactly that tale was spun, but I want to focus on its true conception story first. And I'm gonna get all science-y on ya, but I promise it is cool, at least I think so. All diamonds have a wild creation story, but of course the Hope isn't an ordinary diamond. This gem story starts deep within the earth, under extraordinary heat and pressure about 1 to 3 billion years ago. That's billion with a B. 100 miles beneath the Earth's surface, carbon atoms were subject to temperatures between 1600 to 2500 degrees Fahrenheit, and crushing power over 725 pounds per square inch. It's insane, yes, but these conditions are essential for transforming carbon into diamonds. In the case of the Hope Diamond, the presence of boron is what gave the diamond its distinctive blue color. Once formed, it did not just pop up on the surface. Diamonds are brought closer to the surface by deep volcanic eruptions, encapsulated in a type of magma called kimberlite. And this magma travels through volcanic pipes, eventually cooling and solidifying near or at the Earth's surface. Over time, erosion and other geological processes can expose these diamonds. After this incredible journey, the Hope Diamond was found in the Golconda mines. These ancient mines, renowned for their unparalleled wealth, have produced some of the most coveted diamonds that the world has ever seen. And in the heart of these tunnels, concealed beneath the solid rocks and layers of earth, lay a diamond of astonishing potential: the Tavernier Blue. When isn't exactly known, but it is believed to be discovered in the 17th century. It was discovered by Jean-Baptiste Tavernier, and I'm going to apologize right now. Jean-Baptiste Tavernier and the name Tavernier is French, and I did look up how to pronounce it. Unfortunately, I don't have a beautiful French accent, so I apologize if I butcher it because of that, but I am doing my best. The Tavernier Blue, a raw and unrefined gem, was a diamond in the rough, quite literally. But even though it didn't look very special, it was meant for great things. Tavernier, who had an eye for the exceptional and the extraordinary, was drawn to this rough diamond. He saw the diamond not just for what it was, but for what it could become: a gem of unmatched beauty and brilliance. Thus the stone was extracted from the womb of the earth and in the hands of Tavernier, beginning its long and fateful journey. This journey would lead the diamond across oceans, where it would catch the eyes of everyone from kings and queens to collectors of precious jewels, and ignite the curiosity and fascination of millions. With Tavernier returning to Europe, bearing this exceptional gem, it did not take long for the Tavernier Blue to catch the attention of the French monarchy. King Louis XIV, known as the Sun King, which is a very fitting moniker for a man about to possess such a radiant jewel. Under the king's command, the raw diamond began its transformation. He commissioned his court jeweler to recut the gem. This task was not taken lightly. His jeweler, being a master of his craft, knew that he held in his hands the potential to reveal the gem's true brilliance. Carefully and meticulously, he transformed the rough stone into a showpiece for the king. What emerged was the French blue, a 69-carat heart-shaped diamond of unparalleled beauty. And if you're thinking to yourself, that description sounds very familiar, you are correct. The raw and unassuming Tavernier blue was now a stunning gem, its new cut showcasing its distinctive deep blue color. King Louis XIV proudly wore the gem as a ceremonial piece during significant royal events. The gem was set in gold and suspended on a neck ribbon that the king wore on special occasions. The diamond became a symbol of the absolute monarchy, the grandeur and the opulence that characterized Louis XIV's reign. It wasn't just a gem. It was a testament to the king's power, wealth, and taste for the exquisite. However, King Louis XIV's relationship with the diamond was more than just pomp and circumstance. His fascination with it reflected his love for sciences, specifically gemology. In fact, the Sun King's collection of gems and minerals, which included the French blue, was notable for being one of the most extensive of its time. Now, this next tale I can't really debunk because there's just no way of knowing, but Louis suffered a plethora of health issues while the stone was in his possession. And I do mean several. We're talking severe dental issues, to the point where his teeth had to be removed because of the decay, anal fistulas, which were, as I can imagine, very painful, and they did require surgery, but there was also gout, malaria, and gangrene, which ultimately led to his death. Now, this could be the diamond, but also keep in mind that dental hygiene was notoriously misunderstood and poor at this time, and obviously just overall medical information at that time left much to be desired. This is the era where they were drilling holes into people's skulls, I believe it's called trepanation, to cure mental illness, headaches. They were also sticking leeches on patients that were meant for bloodletting, which they believed removed impurities from the body. So I don't think it's far-fetched to say that Louis was receiving some weird-ass treatments, which ironically led to more health issues. The French blue continued to add to the splendor of the French court as it was passed down to Louis XV and then to Louis XVI. It was with the reign of Louis XVI and Queen Marie Antoinette that the diamond would witness one of the most turbulent periods of French history, the French Revolution. Now, when you hear about Louis and Marie, you know there's a beheading involved. Later, this would be used to escalate the curse narrative, saying that the slice of it all was because the gem was in the king and queen's possession. But in my opinion, I believe it was Little Miss Antoinette's decision to construct this vacation cottage that was meant to imitate a rustic, humble, Pinteresty, blue-collar gal type situation, while her people lived in actual humble, rustic abodes, not in the cute way. These common people were dead broke and literally starving, and Antoinette and the king wanted to throw lavish parties and build a 17th century, I think a 17th century fucking Barbie cottage dream house. I think that's why the people may have wanted her head. But also, diamond maybe? In September 1792, the French blue was stolen from the royal storehouse, which was not adequately guarded during the Revolution. The theft was audacious and extensive, with the thieves taking their time, reportedly 5 days, to empty the storehouse of its treasures. The French blue diamond, along with the other stolen jewels, vanished into the shadows of the criminal underworld. The fate of the diamond during the next few decades is a bit murky, filled with speculations and unconfirmed sightings. It is widely believed that the diamond was taken to London and recut to avoid recognition. This resulted in a substantial reduction in its size, and this recut stone is what is known today as the Hope Diamond. The reemergence of the diamond in a recognizable form occurred when it appeared in the gem collection of a London banker, Henry Philip Hope, in the early 19th century. The diamond remained in the Hope family for several decades, passing through various heirs until it was sold off to pay debts in 1901. The Hope family faced financial ruin, and of course, many blamed this on the cursed Hope diamond. Truly, it was Henry's great-nephew, Lord Francis Hope, who really put the nail in the coffin of his family's fortune. Lord Francis Hope tried to keep up a lavish lifestyle when the funds were dwindling, and extravagant spending was unsustainable. His situation was further strained by an expensive divorce from his wife, May Yohe, who was an American actress known for her lavish spending habits. Lord Francis Hope obtained permission from the court to sell the diamond to alleviate his debts. The Hope diamond changed hands a few times after this, but eventually reached Pierre Cartier. Yes, that Cartier. It took some time to find a client that was wealthy enough to purchase the gem, but he set his sights on American heiress Evelyn Walsh McLean as a prospective buyer. Let me just say, Cartier was a master salesman. He knew how to create an experience rather than a simple sale. He presented the heiress with a brown package covered in wax seals, and before opening it to present the gem, he took Evelyn on a wild journey, retracing the diamond's famous history, albeit with a few embellishments. Cartier knew the value of a great story, even if it may not be 100% true. He told McLean that the diamond was stole from the eye of a Hindu idol, as I mentioned in the beginning. It's all coming together now. And apparently that wasn't outrageous enough, so Pierre Cartier made sure to add that the alleged thief, Jean-Baptiste Tavernier, was mauled by dogs due to this sacrilege. In reality, we now know how the gem was actually found, and Jean-Baptiste lived until the age of 84, which is incredible. To give you an idea of how spectacular that was, statistically for that time period, 25% of children died before the age of 5, 40% died before the age of 16, and if you were lucky enough to live through puberty, it was likely you would only live until your late 50s, early 60s. Cartier continued this tale of the Hope diamond and did not fail to capitalize on the gem being possessed by royals. He shared that King Louis XVI and Queen Marie Antoinette and their ownership of the gem supposedly brought upon the misfortune of the French Revolution and their subsequent executions. Then, of course, Pierre made sure that the Hope bankruptcy was blamed on this cursed diamond as well. With these stories, he presented not just a gem, but a compelling narrative filled with intrigue, danger, and mystique that was deeply intertwined with the diamond's history, making it priceless. But of course, not really. Pierre Cartier definitely cashed in. The tales had Evelyn practically drooling, but for reasons unknown, she decided not to purchase the diamond at first. But Cartier was not deterred and moved to Plan B. He shipped the gemstone to America and changed the setting to a frame of smaller, regular, but still beautiful diamonds that enhanced the large blue showstopper in the center. After that and some extra convincing, Evelyn Walsh McLean purchased the Hope diamond for $180,000, which equates to about $5 million today. Evelyn did have a special request, putting a clause in the contract that made sure if anything bad happened to her due to the curse, she would have the privilege to exchange goods. Which in reality, how could that ever work in a contract? She could have gotten a terrible migraine one day and blamed it on the curse and got to exchange her goods, but whatever. From what I read, I guess Evelyn and Pierre Cartier came up with a sort of payment plan. It's a bit confusing, but there was some financial drama for a bit due to McLean not making those payments properly. However, that got cleared up and Evelyn kept the diamond and truly treasured it. During her ownership, the Hope Diamond was often worn at lavish parties and social events. McLean was even known to let her Great Dane wear the gem around the house. The Hope Diamond really was part of her day-to-day life, not just merely a showpiece for special occasions. Sadly, her time with the exquisite diamond was not all sunshine. Far from, actually. Within a year of owning the Hope Diamond, Evelyn's father passed away. This left Evelyn distraught, and she fell into a morphine addiction. Her mental health deteriorated, and she even began to hallucinate. Another terrible tragedy struck when Evelyn's first son, Vincent, passed away at about 8 years old. Years later, the McLean's 19-year-old daughter, Evie, married a 57-year-old man, and on her wedding day wore the Hope Diamond. 6 years into the marriage, Evelyn found her daughter dead, presumably from taking her own life. There was more loss, though not even close to as tragic as losing a child. First, there was the loss of the family paper, the Washington Post. Also, Evelyn's marriage fell apart and the family fortune was depleted. I want to give some background information on these horrible events. When I first looked into the cursed events that happened, just a basic cursory search, that was all the information that was given. And I found that to be a pattern. A lot of articles and documentaries don't go into detail, which always raises a red flag to me. Maybe I'm just crazy and like details, but regardless, I dug a bit deeper. The more I dug, the more I realized that a good portion of these events seemed explainable. Maybe not all of them, but the majority seemed like they couldn't just be blamed on a curse. Starting with Evelyn's father, yes, he did pass away suddenly from heart disease. I will say he lived to the age of 60, which is very young today, but the life expectancy at the time was between 48 and 52 years old. That, of course, doesn't make it any less upsetting to Evelyn, but at his age, fatal diseases were extremely common in the grand scheme of things, and a sudden death at 60 years old wasn't unheard of. Going from Evelyn's father to her son Vincent, just an unimaginable tragedy. Vincent was 8 years old when he was struck by a car in front of his family's country home. Surgeons were summoned after the accident, but sadly their skill was unavailing. In 1918, the year young Vincent passed, automobile safety standards were far less stringent than they are today. I read and also assumed that because of that, deaths from vehicular accidents were more common back then. But I'm a nerd and I found the data and did some math on this. In comparing the impact of motor vehicle deaths in 2 separate years, it is crucial to consider the total population at the time. I want to say that first. In 1918, the year Vincent passed away, there were approximately 10,390 motor vehicle deaths in the United States, which represented about 0.01% of the population. Fast forward to 2022, and the number of motor vehicle deaths increased to 42,795. However, due to population growth, this accounted for approximately 0.012% of the population. To put it in perspective, while the actual number of deaths in 2022 was significantly higher, of course, than 1918, when adjusted for population size, the percentage of motor vehicle deaths in 2022 was slightly higher than 1918, which I did not expect. I thought once it was adjusted for population size, it would actually be less than in 1918 because of the poor safety standards back then. But the data reveals that relative to the size of the population, there was a marginal increase in the proportion of motor vehicle deaths from 1918 to 2022. And just like with Evelyn's father, obviously if this data revealed something totally different, like that motor vehicle deaths were super common, happening on a daily basis, happening on an hourly basis, it wouldn't matter because that's your child. It doesn't make it any less upsetting. I just wanted to share the data because I thought it was fascinating and not what I expected. Moving on to Evelyn's daughter, Evie, who was married off to a man old enough to be her father. A repugnant man, might I add, and that's me being kind. That's a whole rant/video on its own. I'm not going to get into that man. But as I said earlier, Evie was found dead. And almost every bit of information I read just stopped at she took her own life. But after I found the truth of the matter, I began to think that extra information wasn't given to simply amp up the, I hate to say spectacle because this is someone's death, but the spectacle of the Hope Diamond and its curse, which is obviously extremely gross. From my research, there is no concrete information or evidence that Evie took her own life. She did overdose on sleeping pills, so that could very well be her taking her own life. But it could have been accidental. And on the official report, it is labeled as accidental. Not that that means it's concrete either. I just wanted to put that out there that there is no way to know for absolute certain that Evie took her own life or if she accidentally overdosed. But I think it's kind of odd that people just jump to the taking her own life when there's no concrete evidence of that. The next alleged cursed event to dissect was the loss of the family paper, the Washington Post. Ned McLean, Evelyn's husband, inherited the paper, and to put it bluntly, he didn't really give a shit about it. Under his leadership, the paper struggled severely. Ned was preoccupied with spending excessively and living lavishly. This turned into a problem with absolutely no solution when the Great Depression began in 1929. Faced with mounting debts and unable to sustain his lifestyle or the newspaper financially, Ned was forced to sell the Washington Post. So it was not some strange occurrence. This was a consequence of Ned's greed and his inability to run a business and his disinterest in that business. As far as Evelyn and Ned's marriage disintegrating, that was due to a combination of things. Again, it wasn't just some weird freak occurrence. Both had heavy addictions to drugs and alcohol, and Ned was unfaithful. It was not like Ned was Mr. Wonderful until one day when Evelyn put the Hope Diamond on, nor did doing so cause them to suddenly pick up a drink or other vices. But again, it is painted that way when the lore of the diamond is discussed. No matter their flaws, the grief Ned and Evelyn faced was insurmountable and valid. The family's fortune was non-existent, and because of Ned's erratic behavior and poor business decisions, a court declared him insane, which is a whole other conversation, but he was committed to an insane asylum where he would remain until his death in 1941. Evelyn passed away in 1947. Upon her death, Evelyn's estate was forced to sell the diamonds to settle debts, mostly acquired by Ned. Harry Winston, a prominent New York jeweler, purchased the diamond from Evelyn's estate in 1949. Winston was known for his collection of rare gems and had a special interest in the Hope Diamond due to its size, color, and storied history. After owning it for over a decade, Winston decided to donate the diamond to the Smithsonian Institution. In 1958, he sent the Hope Diamond to the Smithsonian in a plain brown package via registered mail, a decision that became famous for its modesty and trust in the Postal Service, although I did read it was insured for $1 million. And this is where we meet our final victim, if you will. I guess that's what we will call them. Alleged victims. James Todd was the postal worker who delivered the Hope Diamond to the Smithsonian, and he had some misfortune occur afterwards. Records indicate that James Todd was involved in a truck accident, which resulted in a crushed leg. There is also mention of a head injury in a separate accident, but detailed information about this incident is less clear and doesn't seem to be as well documented as the truck accident. There's also the claim that his house burned down. That is a very popular piece of lore surrounding the Hope Diamond. However, it is difficult to confirm the veracity of this claim with absolute certainty, as detailed records and reports are sparse. Finally, there is a story about his dog passing away suddenly after delivering the diamond. If true, this is so incredibly sad, but like the house fire, concrete evidence or detailed accounts confirming this event are lacking. I want to shift from the James Todd delivery back to Harry Winston and the donation itself. Harry Winston's main intention in donating the Hope Diamond was to help establish a national gem collection for the United States. He hoped that the Hope Diamond would be the cornerstone of a new gem and mineral exhibition at the Smithsonian, a vision that indeed became a reality. The Hope Diamond not only became a showpiece for the Smithsonian Institution's National Museum of Natural History, but also helped to increase public interest in gemology. Also, it was at the museum when another layer of mystery was unveiled. At one point while at the Smithsonian, the diamond was exposed to ultraviolet light for several seconds. When the light was turned off, the diamond began to emit a red glow, a phenomenon that lasted several minutes. Now, this had me believing, I wasn't gonna lie, I had never heard of a diamond glowing in any sort of way. So my brain immediately said, alien rock? Question mark? That makes me think of Edward Cullen in The Sun.
The skin of a killer bone.
I was all aboard the cursed Hope Diamond train at this point. But as you can imagine, there is a scientific explanation for this. I'm going to put my science hat on again for just a moment to explain the glow situation in the simplest way I can. It took me a very long time to understand what I was reading, so I apologize if this doesn't make the most sense, but I did my best. The Hope Diamond contains trace amounts of boron. I believe I mentioned that at the very beginning. And boron causes it to absorb light in a specific way. When exposed to UV light, the diamond absorbs the light and re-emits it in a different color. In the case of the Hope Diamond, a deep red. The donation of the Hope Diamond solidified Harry Winston's reputation as a philanthropist and supporter of the arts and sciences. His generous gift made it possible for millions of visitors to enjoy the beauty of the Hope Diamond and learn about its rich and complex history. Today, the Hope Diamond continues to draw crowds from around the world, making it one of the most popular exhibits at the Smithsonian. The diamond is typically displayed as the centerpiece of the museum's National Gem and Mineral Collection. So with all this background on the mystical Hope Diamond, I do lean more on the side that this was super storytelling. However, I do believe that energy and intentions can stick to objects, and maybe that was the case here, or partially the case. I am definitely more inclined to believe that misfortune follows, if not all, most of us. So I don't even think it's a coincidence that bad things happen to these people. It's expected in the grand scheme of things. And of course, the majority of these tales were, at best, heavily exaggerated, and at worst, complete fabrications. Which leads me to my final question, which is why? Why do humans have this fascination with curses and the supernatural and the mysterious? I really had to sit with that question for a minute. And I believe it can be attributed to a variety of psychological, sociocultural, and maybe I'm crazy, but also evolutionary factors. Just hear me out. I'll get there. I will take you down the rabbit hole. Humans have an innate curiosity and desire to explore the unknown. Curses and supernatural phenomena represent mysteries that challenge people to uncover the truth. And this curiosity can lead to a deep fascination with mysterious phenomena, encouraging exploration and storytelling. Engaging with the concept of curses can invoke a sense of fear and thrill. And that thrill of engaging with the unknown can be addictive, drawing people to stories and beliefs about curses. Along with psychological factors, there are socio-cultural factors as well. Societies have a long tradition of storytelling and myth-making, using tales of curses to impart moral lessons or to explain unaccountable events. These stories become a part of a cultural fabric, shaping beliefs and perceptions about curses and the supernatural. And it's the same with many religious and spiritual beliefs. And that far-fetched one, here we go, evolutionary. I'm gonna go full Elastigirl arms with my reach here, but hear me out. From an evolutionary perspective, being cautious of potential threats, including those perceived as curses or supernatural phenomena, could have survival benefits, and this could explain why humans are naturally inclined to be intrigued by and cautious of curses and the supernatural. Also, that weird human need to find patterns in everything, a really fucking annoying trait, in my opinion. I don't understand people's inability to just accept that shit happens. It doesn't mean that birds aren't real. You know what I'm saying? Anyways, this tendency can foster beliefs in curses as people seek to find explanations for unaccountable events and end up linking them to supernatural causes. So with all that, it's up to you what you believe. Is the Hope Diamond some supernatural phenomenon? Or was that Pierre fella a super marketing genius and a super storyteller?